If I had to start over, this is what I would do. And of course, like, this is based on my experience, so please go ahead and choose whatever you feel is best. Let us dive into it. My first tip is to be social with your social media. A lot of composers, especially me, I'm talking about me, like, we'll post things on Instagram, and then in our minds we'll be like, I'm doing the things, I'm putting myself out there, but then we don't actually reach out to people. And I think it's very silly to use social media in a way where you're like hiding behind your screen rather than connecting with people, which is like the whole premise of it. Like, you can say whatever you want about like the platform and the algorithm and whatever. The truth is that it is in your power to like go and connect with filmmakers and reach out, send that first DM and build like a relationship, start a conversation. The first big mistake that I made was posting content and thinking that a filmmaker would come find me through the content. I don't know what was going through my mind, but I thought that the algorithm was going to pick up that I was a film composer and then just somehow connect me with filmmakers, which is not what happened. Even going viral will not do that for you, and here's why. When you post content about a certain topic, so composing for example, doesn't it make more sense for the algorithm to push that to other composers rather than a filmmaker? It was just like a little ridiculous, like what I was thinking at that time. I want you to know that you do not need to go viral. You do not need to post like 5 bajillion times a day to get your first gig. What it's really about is finding a way to be yourself and use social media to introduce you as a composer and as a person, and then going to the various places online where filmmakers hang out or post about their work, and then going onto Instagram to contact them and give them a chance to see what you're all about. That is what really led to work for me, and not like just posting content. Posting content by itself does not do everything for you. There is so much more work underneath that you need to do in order to get those first gigs. Be social with your social media. Do not hide behind your content. Number 2, make connecting with filmmakers a part of your social life. When I first started out, I thought that if I just made a goal to contact as many filmmakers as possible, that eventually just through like sheer numbers and like effort that I would get a gig. And that was exhausting. It burnt me out and it was just not fun. What worked way better for me was thinking of it as like, I'm a composer and filmmakers like to work with their friends. I need to make friends who are filmmakers. I need to go out there and connect with people who need someone like me. Of course, like, it works way better when you actually have something in common with them instead of just thinking like, oh, I just want a gig from this person. That was just like such a weird thing to go through, and I feel like we don't talk about this enough. Watching filmmakers work and like finding people that I admired and genuinely would love to collaborate with, and not from the sense that like being desperate for a gig or just like simping over a filmmaker. It was more like, if I'm going to go into this industry, it's going to be way more enjoyable if I do it with friends. Like, doesn't making art with your friends just sound way better than like, oh, making art with clients? It just sounds like so boring. I don't know. This line kind of blurs between working with a client and working with a friend. I mean, obviously there's like different opinions on this, but for me, like when I was first starting out from nothing, what I feel like was my edge over other composers who were obviously more experienced than me was the fact that I wanted to connect with the filmmaker beyond just their work. I made a point to find people who had similar backgrounds to me or interests or hobbies that I really enjoyed, or maybe we liked the same movies, or there's something about their work that sparked my imagination, like going beyond just like, oh, how can I provide you value and like whatever, like that's important too. But I just really wanted to work with people that I could see as friends, or at least as someone that I could really connect and relate to. So to do that, I had to be super specific and like reflect a bunch on who I am as a person and also as an artist. So one of those things is being Filipino American. Not all of you are Filipino American, like, but just hear me out. I kind of like stumbled into it, I was like, you know, what kind of movies will I want to make? And something that came up was, you know, some stories about being Filipino American. Like, I would love to work on some kind of project like that. And like, no offense to the white male composers out there, but I was just like, you know, if it came down to it, wouldn't they want a Filipino American composer and not just some rando guy? I know that story. That is my story. So maybe that's my edge over like other composers. And I'm not saying that like you should go about finding filmmakers in a way where they're going to choose you just because of like your race or your ethnicity or whatever. It's just that like if you can be more specific about what kind of projects you want to work on and how that like connects to you as a person, I think you'll have way better results than just being like, I'll work on anything. I'll work on action, thriller, mystery, adventure. That was not it for me. And the kind of music that I wanted to write as an artist, so this is tying in two things, like who you are as an artist, as a person, and also like what kind of music you want to make. In the beginning, I was very general and I was like, you know what, I'll do anything. But then eventually I kind of realized that I really enjoy writing minimal kind of music, stuff that sounds like indie rock, folky, acoustic-y, mixed in with like a little bit of orchestral, something. Like those are the kind of films where I was like, okay, what kind of stories need that kind of music and what kind of filmmaker makes those kinds of films? And that basically guided my whole search for filmmakers. So yeah, anyways, what was I saying? Make connecting with filmmakers a part of your social life. And to do that, you got to know who you are as a person and as an artist. Number 3, use crowdfunding sites around spring and summer to find student films and small indie projects. It's better to film when the weather isn't pissing rain in your face or dumping snow on your camera, right? So spring and summer is the time to make films. And as a composer, that means come February and March, like very, very early, like end of winter, I think you should be going on crowdfunding sites and looking for, you know, filmmakers who are either just starting out or about to graduate from film school and connect with them. If you can get there early and build those relationships before they even like think about music and like asking for a composer, you got like a leg up on everyone else who is like coming on later in the game and they're like, oh, we already have a composer. Not every single filmmaker has access to the resources to work with a film composer. For the bigger projects that you might find on these crowdfunding sites, such as these, those projects, of course, are probably with filmmakers who have the connections where they already have like a go-to film composer. But for these smaller ones, like people just coming out of uni, college, whatever you want to call it, they probably have never worked with a film composer before or have very limited experience doing so. And I feel like this time of year is really good too because a lot of these students, of course, are aspiring to make like professional careers in this industry. So if you've already worked with them and they enjoyed it, like in a film school setting, then when they go out and they graduate and they start to create their own production companies or their own films, they're going to remember you. And it's just like so much easier for them to work with a composer that they already know versus someone that they don't. Sorry, I'm kind of congested. Number 4, use YouTube to discover filmmakers who are documenting their journey or channels that curate short films. So there's like 2 parts to this and I want to make like a whole video on this. I talk about this in my Gig Hunting Kit course, which if you're interested, check the link in the description. I have thought about this idea of using the YouTube algorithm to show me filmmakers and the results were really interesting. So one day I typed in cinematic vlogs into the search bar and I ended up finding this one filmmaker who had just transitioned out of their career in fashion photography. Shout out to Orange Kevin, if you're watching this. That was like such a cool discovery to make. I'm not gonna say that like my goal is always to get work out of a filmmaker. Like that's just a very cold, calculated way to look at things. But what I learned is that YouTube is a great way to discover new things, new topics, and that includes filmmakers who are also content creators. At this time, like I had only been watching the occasional like film essay analysis video, like Accented Cinema is one of my favorites. Those were very highly produced, like curated film content. But when I started looking up these content formats that filmmakers make when they're not making like actual films, I discovered that I could actually teach my personal YouTube algorithm to feed me content from filmmakers. And I actually taught this to one of my students, and he actually showed me his algorithm, and it was just all like short films from all kinds of filmmakers all over the world. And it was super, super cool to see, because it's basically like this unlimited pool of filmmakers. And it wasn't even just like big channels, but it was also like people who are just starting out, or people who are kind of like in the middle of their career and like they've experienced some success already and they're, you know, documenting their journey. Highly recommend that you give that a try. Start learning about filmmaking. And then the other thing that I mentioned was channels that curate. So channels like Omeletto, Dust, and No Budge are the three that I have known for a while now. Shout out to my friend Gabriel for mentioning No Budge to me when I first taught this topic. These channels act like a film festival where they curate and show short films from all kinds of filmmakers. So people submit to these channels and then they get posted. And in the description of every single video is like a link to the filmmaker or the producer, director's website, or their social media. Go on Instagram after finding the filmmaker's work and like talk to them about what you liked about their film and just like start a conversation. These channels are always posting videos. Like it's been several years now since Omeletto like first started posting. Basically they shifted from labeling their videos like a YouTuber would, and they started just listing the film name like as it is. So like here's an example of a film that they labeled as like a YouTube video in the past, and then here's an example of like the actual film's name. That change I think reflects the appreciation for films now. Like YouTube is a distribution platform, so if these filmmakers don't get distributed, get picked up by like Netflix or Prime or whatever, they can live online. Like these films can have a second life and reach new people through like these YouTube channels. So it's incredibly amazing to be in this part of like film and music history. So take advantage of that. If you find a film that you like on that channel, you can easily contact the filmmaker. Tip number 5, the composer website. My opinion is that your website as a composer is supposed to like seal the deal, and your social media is your like introduction for the filmmaker. I still think social media is really important, but having a website is still a very big part of what gets me work. If I didn't have a website, it would just be like, you know, is this person serious about film composing? And also, you're a small business, you're a freelancer. So if you were going to work with someone, hire someone, but you couldn't find anything about them online other than their social media, like that would be kind of a red flag for me. Using Instagram, like short form, as like getting a filmmaker acquainted with you, and then using long form platforms like YouTube to deepen that relationship, let them spend more time with you, and then using your website as a way to like seal the deal. They'll check out your website, they'll be like, oh my gosh, like they've worked on so many cool projects and their music sounds amazing and this is their portfolio. Oh, it sounds like it could be my film, and I'm like really excited. So now they're all hyped up to work with you, not just because they found your website, which they probably like would not randomly just find your website. Your social media is directing them to your website. So let me draw you a funnel. At the top of the funnel is going to be your social media platforms. And if we're going off of what I said, like this would be short form. This is something that you could easily do as a composer just starting out. Just get into the habit of creating content and exploring ways to make this enjoyable for you. After, I don't know, like 10, 20 posts, and you feel like, hey, I'm getting the hang of this, then you could transition into long form content. With YouTube, obviously you can't post as much content as like short form. It's like more challenging and there's more preparation and work involved. If you can get like, I don't know, 5-10 videos where you're showing your work and you're getting in front of the camera and you're giving some context as to like what it's like to work with you, to be in your life, and just like showcase your personality more, that will make the filmmaker fall in love with you even more. I think if like they're a good fit, if they can imagine being friends with you, then that's really good. I've actually been told from a gig that I didn't end up landing that the filmmaker really loved my YouTube channel and that they want to work with me in the future. So that was like a huge eye-opening experience for me. I always thought that my YouTube channel was like quite small and like wouldn't really have an impact. But the truth is, like, you never know who's watching. And whenever you are in contact with a filmmaker, they're going to find your stuff. Like, it doesn't matter if you've gone viral or not. All that matters is that you showed up and you gave people a chance to know you. Let's continue with the funnel. So the YouTube part, getting to know you even more. And then at the very bottom of the funnel, that last part is going to be your website. So I'm actually revamping my website right now to reflect the growth that I've experienced as a composer, but also an educator. So here's what my website looks like right now. Like, if you're serious about, pursuing film composing, you need a website. That's my thoughts on that. Ugh, my hand is getting all sore from clutching this so hard. Focus on building real relationships, not getting the gig. I've kind of touched upon this a little bit already, but don't look at people as like a means to accomplish your goal. I really don't have the perfect way to explain this, so I'm actually going to read you a quote from John Steinbeck's East of Eden, which, like, if you don't read books like that, then I'm so sorry, but this quote is really good. Let me just explain to you. So for context, this is a quote from a character in the book who is about to plan a murder. Hear me out though, okay? It's a really good quote. Okay, so what our friend John Steinbeck is saying is that if you focus too much on what you want the outcome to be, you're going to get all up in your head, get anxious, and basically ruin it for yourself. In context, if you are meeting with a filmmaker and all you can think about is, I want to land this gig, like, I hope they hire me, blah, 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 instead of being present and like focusing on what you need to do to get there, which is to have a good conversation with them, to connect with them, show them that you care and be interested in their work, you're going to get all caught up in what's in it for you instead of what it takes to get there. This is just another way to say enjoy the journey, not the destination, whatever. This has been extremely helpful for me because it just removes all the pressure of like trying to be perfect in everything and get the desired outcome that you want from every single interaction with a filmmaker. It's not that you don't care, it's that in order to get to where you want to go, you need to be in the moment and be able to navigate the situations that you encounter without tripping over yourself and being obsessed with what the end result should be. So it's kind of like this weird mind game of like, forget what you even want the end result to be and just focus on being there, like on your journey to get there. My throat is parched. Well, if you want to learn how to do this based on my journey, you want to learn from me, check out the link in the description. Other than that, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.